Welcome to Set or Pass, the news series where I'm going to talk about a new set and tell you whether you should get the set or pass on it and move on. We're going to just kick it off with an upcoming set called the Grand Creators, a set that already feels like it's going to be overlooked by the majority of the Yu-Gi-Oh community. This set introduces Punk, Exorcisters, and the Brave tokens. Right off the bat, we actually know quite a good amount about the Grand Creators. It is a 60-card deck building set in the same vein as Genesis Impact, King's Court, Secret Slayers, and a few others. These sets prioritize a few specific archetypes over widely available cards or staples, though of course some archetypal cards are splashable like we saw with Utopia Draco Future, for example. Right off the bat, I'm gonna say right now that if you ever want to buy a Yu-Gi-Oh set or you ever don't want to buy a Yu-Gi-Oh set, do not let a random stranger on YouTube tell you what to spend your money on. It is entirely your decision, and I'm either here to give more insight or help people who are on the fence. With that out of the way, let's talk about Grand Creators. The first thing we know is that at the time of this video's recording, there are 3 archetypes being introduced and no staples actually announced. As the release is over a month away, there's a lot to unpack from a lot of information we have in the OCG. In previous deck building sets, the TCG doesn't really reprint every single OCG cards, but they do see a lot of the same ones. Ancient Guardians saw numerous short printed Reptile and Pendulum cards get reprinted, Genesis Impact with ritual support and cards like the Nightmares, Toon Chaos with Gammas and Desires. This was the same between the OCG and the TCG, and that gives us some good hints about the future of the set. With Emergency Teleport and Solemn Strike both available as commons in the OCG version, we can honestly hope to see those in the TCG as well. We've also got Collector's Rare, making a return in the Grand Creators, and let's be real, they're going to be exclusively giving it to the female monsters like they did with Magistus. Now let's talk about the actual archetypes, starting with Punk. These crazy artists make waves with their own styles and beats, representing different art forms of their own, including Ukiyo-e, No, Joruri, and Gagaku. The deck focuses on fusing using Ukiyo-e Punk Sharakusai's effect to fuse into Ukiyo-e Punk Carp Rising. It's really hard to say all these names, by the way. Then using that effect to set up a synchro summon for your Ukiyo-e Punk Amazing Dragon, which is a generic level 11 synchro that can actually bounce cards up to the number of level 3 psychic monsters in your field and graveyard. While this effect is strong, Punk actually lacks the versatility to go into more powerful cards, and at the moment are kinda gonna be stuck waiting on a new support card in a future set that'll probably push them over the edge. Hello, future demo here. I'm actually interrupting because as I was recording and editing this video, new support cards were revealed for all the archetypes I talk about in this video, so I'll be cutting in a total of 3 times, 1 per archetype. There are pictures in fact, and I will describe what they do. The new card for Punk will be No Punk Dianote, a new level 5 monster that can special summon itself or another Punk from your hand, and can revive a monster when it's sent to the graveyard. I'm not sure how this really helps, and it does not help you build up an end board as well, but I also don't really understand how the archetype works, so, there you go. If you're planning to play the deck, make sure to pick up a copy of Psychic Wielder and Emergency Teleport, as the deck absolutely has ways to use it. I do expect Emergency Teleport to get reprinted in that set though, so it's not a huge necessity. I'd also still recommend picking up a few copies of the Synchro even if you don't plan to play the deck, as it could eventually see play in an aggro deck that can turbo out, a level 11 Synchro monster easily. And it could pretty much be used in any deck that plays level 3 Psychic monsters, which is a lot more common than you might think. All in all, Punk can see some locals and possibly regional success with the right build like any other rogue deck, and as such I'd say it is a rogue deck. Not gonna lie though, their designs are absolutely awesome, especially No Punk Numeral Ogre. I swear to god, this is like the coolest design in the set. Next we've got my personal favorite deck of the set. Nice wholesome religious girls who are all one step away from becoming Sister Friday when they turn into literal angels, I guess, I don't know. I'm talking of course about Exorcister. Exorcisters are an Xyz based control deck that are incredibly consistent and can pretty much have any level 4 engine splashed into them. The deck is, like any other control deck, very reliant on the situation, but as Exorcists they power up when cards leave the graveyard, with all of them sharing the same effect to Xyz summon, using just themselves as a material when an opponent's card leaves the graveyard. This can come up in a lot of the current meta, of course ignoring things like Flunderies, and all of their Xyz are generic as well, so they're easy to bring out even without an Exorcister card in your hand. They all also have some kind of bonus effects when their effects are used while you control a second Exorcister of a specific name. The best effects in my opinion are Exorcister Elise, who can special summon herself, Exorcister Stella, who summons any Exorcister from your hand, and Exorcister Sophia, who is a free draw card. Elaine has a somewhat subpar effect compared to the others, but you can run her for the name anyway. Your goal with this deck is to make the Exorcister Xyz monster, I swear to god it's so hard to keep saying all of this, then use their effects during the turn that they're summoned to provide explosive results. The star of the church show is Michalise, as she's immune to battle destruction from graveyard summon monsters, allows you to search any Exorcister spell or trap from your deck, and if she was summoned the same turn, allows you to banish a card your opponent controls or is in their graveyard. I literally ran out of breath explaining all of her effects. Imagine using Exorcister Amento to summon Michalise on your opponent's turn, now giving you an extra banish that's able to be used any time within the same turn. That right there is pure fear for the opponent, and it's something that's constantly going to be on their mind. Sadly, none of the cards are really generic, but if I was to recommend picking up anything, the Utopia cards work great from Brothers of Legend. Namely, Rank Up Magic Utopia Force and Dragonar work great, as well as Zeus Ascended Sage to get that combo started. The deck also plays any generic Xyz support, so cards like Zeus and Utopic Draco Future are really good in this deck. It's also a control deck, don't forget, so there's a lot of space for traps or hand traps. For Exorcisters, I'd probably put it on the lower border of Tier 2 or the higher end of Rogue. I see it as something close to like Unchained or Live Twin, a deck that'll probably have a very popular niche, I guess, I'm not sure. The deck is still kind of on the easy side, but there are a lot of lines of play that can allow you to see the deck with competitive success. It's definitely worth picking up as well, because if they get any support at all that improves the deck in the slightest way, it'll be a huge keeper, and you could even see it moving up to tier 1.5. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, for this one, I'm calling actually good card. Exorcister's Magnifica is able to be summoned using 2 Exorcister Xyz monsters, kind of like Utopia Draco Future, and it comes equipped with the effects to attack twice per battle phase, non-targeting quick effect banish, eat that Shureg, and instantly sub itself out for any of its materials. Back to your regularly scheduled video. Finally, we've got what everyone is hyped for some reason, Brave Tokens. Brave Tokens are a D&D adventure but for Yu-Gi-Oh players, people who can't even read a text box on a card, so I don't think they could read an entire player's guide, and they substituted with this instead. Brave Token is built around turboing out the Brave Tokens, of course, and having other monsters surround and protect them, who all get their effects while you control a Brave Token. Cards like Wandering Griffin Rider is just Apex Avion for Brave Tokens. I hate to say it, but while I do think Brave Tokens are absurdly good, there just isn't much to them. Their lines of play are very, very linear, and they just don't have a lot of space to experiment. I expect most decks to just play them as an engine over an actual deck. PK Tokens is seeing a lot of competitive success in the OCG, and it's really easy to see why. Wandering Griffin Rider is a very, very easy to summon Omni Negate that allows any deck to play around hand traps. I fully expect Brave Token to be seen kinda like Dogmatica or Invoked, a tier 1 or 1.5 strategy that's played as like a 5 to 10 card engine in other better decks. PK, like I said, will be absurdly strong with this, since their larger weaknesses are just being interrupted before making a board. Pick up a Phantom Knight's Core if you want a good deck to play Brave in, though you can realistically splash it into almost anything. So if you have a pretty underwhelming rogue deck, just mix them together and bam, you are now in 7th place at locals instead of 12th. Brave Tokens are also getting their own new monster, a level 7 Dark Fiend called Illegal Knight. It can special summon itself if you control a Brave Token or no other monsters. And if you control a Brave Token, you could target 2 cards your opponent controls, give control of itself to your opponent, and then return those cards to the hand. Now that you know about the archetypes, what's really left to say about the set? I'd actually put this on the higher end of deck building sets, and if you can pick up a box for $60 or maybe even $70, I don't really see how you can go wrong. Certain sellers offer absurdly good sales for cases as well if you're into that. Always remember that every deck has their niche audience, and if prices for singles seem low, it doesn't hurt to just hold on to the card. The closest thing that I can really compare this set to is Genesis Impact. That set came out and I must have bought like a whole case for myself and paid no more than $45 per box. It's an insanely undervalued set that people just don't seem to realize had really good reprints, a beautiful high-end rarity bump for popular cards, and introduced a tier 1 competitive monster of a deck, a strong rogue pick with consistent support and beautiful designs, and for me personally, my absolute favorite archetype. You can almost see the parallels clear as day. So in the end, do we set or pass? We set, of course. Grand Creators has the opportunity to just evolve Yu-Gi-Oh! Into a new age, just like the introduction of Burst of Destiny did, but without the absurd, oppressive endboards of something like Drytron did to Genesis Impact. It continues the solid but not unbreakable trend of recent archetypes, and I could do nothing but honestly praise Konami for just the level of care they've taken into making the Grand Creators another really fun set for both casual and competitive players. As a certain other YouTuber also says, if you're interested in picking up the cards, you can get it using my TCG player link in the description below. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. This is something that I've wanted to work on for a while, and I really hope that I clarified a few things for you. Let me know what you think about the archetypes as well as the set in general, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, it helps a lot. Thank you for watching and have a great day and or night.